What's up guys, it's Tommy here and welcome to a brand new football news video. And there is the huge sensational news that the Premier League has been cancelled in Belgium. They, after 29 games, said that the league is over and they finalized the standings as it is. So they didn't void the season, but they cancelled it, so no more games will be played in Belgium this season. But they have a different setup because there is a normal 30-game season, and after that there is a playoffs where the top half of the table play each other and the bottom half of the table play each other. So basically they cancelled the playoffs and also they stopped the season after 29 games. But there is a big difference to this Premier League and the English Premier League because all the teams played the same amount of games, 29 games, and they awarded the title to Club Bruges, which wasn't a hard decision because they are 15 points clear of Ghent. But also, in a little bit of a controversy, Ghent was awarded a Champions League place, even though they are just 1 point ahead of Charleroi, 2 points ahead of Antwerp. So basically, 3 teams could still have easily finished in second place, but they said the season has to be stopped now. So what do you think about that? And do you think it's viable for the Premier League? And the reason why it isn't is that not all the teams played the same amount of games. So either you choose to end the season and go on points per game ratio, or you basically complete the season, which I think is a more sensible option. And I think the Premier League is in a huge difficult situation because the Premier League, if the clubs don't complete the season, they have to pay back a huge £760 million to the British broadcasters and to broadcasters abroad. So that's why the Premier League and the Premier League clubs are scrambling to find a solution sooner or later to complete the season. And you might agree or disagree with this, but there are huge contracts on the line and there are huge repercussions legally if the Premier League isn't completed. And we will talk about that as well as Kevin De Bruyne saying that the Premier League season should be declared null and void and cancelled. So what do you think about the best solution right now is? I think the best solution is to wait. And when it's safe to do so, complete the season, even though the broadcaster contract runs until the middle of July 16th. And if the Premier League is not completed then clubs might have to pay back the money from the broadcasters, which is a huge amount of money. And the Premier League clubs can't take a massive financial hit like that without some major repercussions. But I think the more sensible option would be just to make a deal with all the broadcasters and to extend the season indefinitely until the Premier League will be safely completed. But first, let's actually talk about what happened in Belgium. Because Rory Smith, journalist, tweeted out this: Belgium becomes the first European league to make a decision, rest of the season cancelled and effectively the most recent standings declared final. So Club Bruges are champions, Ghent are the runners-up and they qualify for the Champions League, and relegation still to be decided. And it's very important that it's not a null and void decision, which means that the clubs still can qualify for the Champions League and the Europa League, because UEFA said that if any league voids their season, that the clubs won't be able to qualify for the UEFA competitions next season. So Belgium said that they are not nulling and voiding the season, they are just awarding all the places right now. And I heard what could happen is that they don't relegate any club, because basically the bottom 3 are, just 3 points separate the bottom 3, and usually 2 clubs get relegated from Belgium. What they will do is get the 2 clubs who are in the first 2 places in the Belgium second division promoted, and they will have 18 teams next season in the league. And I think that's a sensible idea, but can it be done in the Premier League? I'm not so sure, because the Premier League already has 20 teams, and also if you promote 2 or 3 clubs from the Championship, then you would have an incredible 23 teams in the Premier League, and that would require a lot of games. But what you could do actually is try to complete this season by the time it's safe to do so, even if it's in September or October. Complete this season. But if you can't complete this season and you can only restart football like in January, that's one of the worst case scenarios. I really hope not, but that's in the equation at the moment. This is just incredibly unprecedented times, so nobody can really predict when it will be safe to play football again. But if you can't restart playing football much this year, what they should do is just like award the places on points per game average. Maybe don't relegate anyone from the Premier League, but get the 3 teams promoted from the Championship who are in the top 3 places. You could have just 22 games next season, so each team plays each other once, and that's it. And then you will have a shorter season, and you will not have time probably for a full season anyway. You could basically restart the footballing schedule the season after next season as normal, and you could have like maybe like 5 or 6 teams getting relegated in the Premier League. Can you imagine the scramble for points at the end of the season when you know that not 3 but 6 teams could get relegated from the Premier League? That would be just amazing. And yeah, let me know what they think about that proposition. Also, one Premier League club actually suggested to play the games in China, which really blows my mind how anyone could think that is a good idea. But it just so shows how desperate the Premier League clubs are to complete the season and to not lose out on that £760 million TV broadcasters money package that they probably have to pay back if the Premier League can't be completed. Also, what do you think about Juventus saying that if the season is cancelled, they don't want to be awarded champions? Which is very interesting, but after Juventus won like 9 Serie A titles in a row, I'm not really surprised. But if it was Inter or Lazio at the top of the league, I don't think they would say this. And actually today, probably when I'm making this video right now, the Premier League executives are all talking with all the 20 Premier League clubs on a video conference to work out some solution on what to do with the Premier League season. And according to some newspapers, the top flight desperately scrambles to finish the season. One club has even suggested exploring the feasibility of completing the games over in China. I think that's absolutely ridiculous. I much prefer the idea of playing games behind closed doors in a separate isolated location and just try and get games done as quick as possible in a like a World Cup type closed down training camp of some sort, and test every player, every physio, every doctor, every club member, staff, manager, TV broadcaster, everybody who's working to broadcast those games and also is playing football. Just test everyone before you go into that closed training camp, and then you can play the games. But that is also, of course, offers its own challenges and difficulties. And one club's chief executive said to a newspaper, the country that keeps getting proposed is China. It just doesn't make any sense. It is a crazy idea, and I think it will get firmly rejected. If we were to pick up the Premier League and move it to another part of the world right now, we would get absolutely slaughtered. Somebody accused us the other day of being in a bubble. I feel a bit like they are right at this moment, even though I'm not. I can see why people think we are. It just doesn't make any sense, and it's absolutely ludicrous at this moment to even think about starting playing football very soon. I think what the Premier League should do is just postpone the season indefinitely and say we will discuss when to play the Premier League season when this whole health crisis is in a much better state. At the moment, we are not even at the peak. We are just in rising cases all over Europe, all over North America. We shouldn't even talk about like how and when to finish the season in the Premier League, because it doesn't make any sense. You don't know exactly what the situation will be in 1 month, in 2 months. You don't even know what the situation will be in 2 weeks. And the situation might take 6 months to resolve, which means that we could restart the Premier League season in September, October, maybe even November. And what I would do is still finish this season when it's safe to do so, play the remaining 9 games in the Premier League, and then have a shorter season. You have to complete next season by, I think, June the 1st, because the Euro 2021 tournament is starting. So let's say you play the Premier League, but every team only plays each other once. So you will have a 19-game season instead of 38-game season, and then you will have enough time for the Champions League, for the FA Cup, for the League Cup, for even the Nations League, for Euro qualifiers that still needs to be sorted out. The only solution is to finish the Premier League season, and the Premier League, I think, and all the Premier League clubs are really committed to finishing this season. But I heard some players like Harry Kane, I talked about it yesterday, he said that the Premier League season should be voided if it can't be completed in time, and we should just restart from next season. And of course he would say that because Tottenham are in 8th place and they wouldn't gain anything from finishing the season. But actually De Bruyne also said that the season must be finished early, so there are no big problems next year. And this is what De Bruyne said to a Belgian newspaper: I have no idea if we are going to play again this season, but just like here in England, they want to wait as long as possible before making a decision. But as a footballer, it's not that clear cut. If you do nothing for 6 weeks, normally you need a pre-season of 3 to 4 weeks. If we restart immediately, everyone will be injured, everyone will be in the treatment room after a couple of games. That's clearly not the intention, but there is a lot of money involved, and I think that waiting too long to make a decision could cause problems for next season. It is not that we have a very long summer break and we can just shove everything closer together. It would be a shame to stop early after such a good season, but if it avoids problems next year, it must be done. What do you think about that proposition from De Bruyne? And I think still De Bruyne is looking after himself and his own club. Manchester City would not gain anything if the season would continue and if the season would be properly finished, because Man City already banned from the Champions League next season. They really can't catch Liverpool, even though mathematically it's not over. You think Liverpool have 9 games left, they won't lose like 8 of the remaining 9 games left, and also Man City won't win every game. De Bruyne is clearly looking after his own interests, and that's what I have a problem with, that players like Kevin De Bruyne, Harry Kane, you don't see Manchester United players saying the season should be voided and cancelled. You don't see players in the relegation zone who can still stay up if they win a few games saying that the season should be cancelled. Of course, only clubs and players who would gain nothing from the season being finished properly by playing games, those are the only players and clubs saying that the season should be voided, and I have a problem with this. It should be a universal decision, and not if it suits you, then finish the season. If it doesn't suit you, then you are voting to not finish the season. So it feels really not good. And you can bet your house on Kevin De Bruyne not saying this if Manchester City were in Liverpool's position. If Man City were about to win their first Premier League title in a long time, and they were leading by 25 points, there is no way De Bruyne would come out and say this in an interview, I'm sure. Brescia owner Massimo Salino, who used to be Leeds United's owner, has actually come out with a very harsh interview saying that going back to work and playing football right now is pure madness. And this is what Massimo Salino said in his very explosive interview. This Serie A season no longer makes sense. We have stopped, no team will return as before. The stadiums would play matches behind closed doors. There is also risk for the health of the footballers, the athletes. For me, going back to work is pure madness. If they force us, I am willing to withdraw the team and lose matches 3-0 without appearing on the field out of respect for the citizens of Brescia and their loved ones who are no longer there. And Salino also called UEFA arrogant and accused them of thinking purely along financial lines. They can't push anything. The season closes on June the 30th, when there's the deadline to present the club's budgets and player contracts. They are arrogant and irresponsible. They only think about their economic interests and cops. But UEFA doesn't decide for the Italian championship. Italy decides. If Serie A must be resumed, it has to be by the June 30th to end. Will they make us play every 2 days, or does UEFA also have the power to extend each day and make it 72 hours? If UEFA wants to do something useful, they will send oxygen cylinders and respirators to Brescia. We would be grateful for that. I can see his point of view that he doesn't really want to think about football and going back to playing football right now. But also he needs to think about the season could be extended. Who says that the season should be or must be completed by June the 30th? Yes, all contracts and everything is set up that way, but this is a unique situation, and UEFA could make an exception by extending the contracts for another 3 months so the seasons could be completed, because I think UEFA also wants every season to be completed. Otherwise the Champions League and the Europa League next season will be an absolute mess. And Van Dijk is saying that the Liverpool team is fully prepared to restart the season whenever it's safe to do so. This is what he said. The fitness department tried to set up some training sessions online that we can all do together through video call, and I think that's a good idea to stick together again and see each other, see all of each other again. Apart from that, you just do your running to try to do at least something every day. Every Monday, Wednesday and Friday we do a harder session to give your body what it needs, because it can go quickly if you don't do anything for quite a while. You have to be smart, you have to do the right things to keep your body on a certain level that you can kick on when it starts again. So Van Dijk is trying, of course, his best to stay on top of fitness, but it will be difficult when there will be months without players properly training, and playing games, because training individually in your house is not the same as playing football on an 11-a-side football on the pitch, but it will be for everyone the same. Every team will be affected, every player will be affected, so it will be, of course, a different quality of football when the league restarts, whenever that is. But I think sooner or later the quality will come back to the usual high level that we see week in, week out. So yeah, let me know what you think about all this that we talked about in the comments below, and thanks for watching. Hope you enjoyed this. See you later, guys. Goodbye.